Sota always felt invisible, until the day he realized someone was always watching. Every day, the same shadow in the corner of his eye, footsteps that stopped when he stopped. Then he saw her. The school idol, Akari, half hidden behind the corner. Her enormous eyes locked on him. She spent 3 years acting like he didn't exist. Now she won't let him out of her sight. To understand why, step back 3 years. Sota was a first-year nobody whose locker happened to be next to Akari's.
Akari, I like you.
She walked past him without a single glance, as if he were nothing more than air.
She looked right through me, like I didn't exist at all.
That day, Sota learned his place, invisible. For 3 years, she never acknowledged him once. But now the idol who rejected him without a word follows his every step. Why? The answer lay buried in the invisible years after that first-year confession, years of nothing. Morning after morning, their lockers stood inches apart. Akari never once turned her head. In class, the teacher read attendance. Sota, a name that evaporated before it reached anyone's ears. At lunch, he occupied the empty table in the corner, until Kenji slumped down beside him with a tray.
Yo, Sota, you look like a ghost that forgot to haunt.
A ghost would be noticed more often.
Man, you're dark today. Anyway, did you see the crowd around Akari again?
She's on another planet, one where I don't exist.
Yet to everyone else, Akari was the sun. They flocked to her in hallways, desperate for a glance. But at night, Sota poured his loneliness into stories on an old forum. No one read them, but typing felt like breathing. That was his world for 3 years. Invisible, unimportant, until one afternoon in the chemistry lab shattered the silence. 2 years later, Sota still dissolved into the background. Chemistry club was his quiet escape until the teacher introduced Mio, a teen author researching school life. A routine experiment went wrong. A beaker cracked. Acid smoke erupted. Sota threw himself between Mio and the spray before his brain could second guess.
Why did I move? I didn't think. My body just acted.
When the air cleared, Mio trembled, not from the near miss, but from the notebook lying open on the desk. It was filled with story outlines.
These character motivations? The twist foreshadowing. You wrote these? They're incredible.
It's just a hobby. Nothing serious.
I've been searching for a co-writer. Someone with raw talent and no ego. Ghostwrite a web novel with me. Your name stays secret.
A ghostwriter? That's exactly what I am. Invisible. So why does this feel like being seen for the first time? Fine. But no one can know. Not even my friend Kenji.
And so the invisible boy at school gained a secret identity, a ghost in the literary world. No one would connect the two. The web novel serialization shattered records within weeks. Every chapter trended, and anonymous forums buzzed with speculation about the hidden co-author.
Sota, my editor says, we have to credit you. The fans are digging. They'll find out anyway. The series needs a face.
Before Sota could refuse, the press release went out. Co-writer Sota Murakami breaks the internet's favorite web novel, his name no longer invisible. He arrived at school the next morning, expecting the usual nothing. Instead, a wall of noise.
They're looking at me. All of them. This is wrong.
Sota! You're the famous ghostwriter dude. Why didn't you tell me? This is insane.
I made him promise. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I didn't ask for it.
Classmates who had ignored him for years suddenly remembered his existence. Their admiration felt like needles. And at the far end of the corridor, beyond the noise, Akari stood frozen, her hands pressed to her chest, watching him for the first time in 3 years. But Sota didn't see her. He was too busy trying not to drown in a sea of people who'd never bothered to learn his name until today. A week later, Sota still couldn't escape the noise. He ducked out of school early, taking the quiet back road to the station. The train doors slid shut. He found a seat and exhaled. Then his reflection in the window caught something, a familiar silhouette at the far end of the car.
Is that Akari? No, she wouldn't be on this line. I'm just tired.
He turned his head to check. The space was empty, just the sway of the train and a few strangers. 3 days later at the cafe, where he and Mio edited chapters, rain streaked the windows. He glanced up and saw her again, Akari outside, half hidden behind a lamppost.
She's there again? Why? It can't be a coincidence. But what other explanation is there?
You're spacing out again? What? You see a ghost? Or did one of your crazed fans finally track you down?
Something like that. Probably nothing. Just thought I saw someone I used to know.
Used to know? Dude, half the school has known you for years and never said a word. If they're suddenly paying attention, it's weird.
Soda said nothing, but as he stared at the empty lamppost outside, the first cold thread of dread coiled in his chest. It wasn't a coincidence. Soda tried to convince himself it was stress. The library, at least, was a sanctuary of silence. He reached for a book, and his fingers froze. Through the gap between shelves, a sliver of dark hair and one enormous shimmering eye.
She's right there. If I don't move, maybe she'll go away. Why is she doing this?
He circled around the shelf, heart hammering. The aisle was empty, but a single book lay face down on the floor. It hadn't been there before. That night, he couldn't sleep. He stared out his window and saw a figure under the street lamp. When the light flickered, the figure was gone. The next day, he dragged Kenji to the rooftop and closed the door behind them.
Kenji? Have you noticed Akari anywhere near me? I mean, really close, more than once?
I thought you knew. She's been doing it for weeks, at the gate, the station, the library. I figured it was some crazy fan thing after the novel blew up.
Weeks. Everyone saw except me. I was too busy hiding from my own fame to notice the one person who's been hiding in plain sight. I'm ending it tomorrow. No more running for either of us.
The next day, Soda waited in the hallway long after the final bell. The corridor emptied until only echoes remained. Then footsteps, soft and hesitant. Akari rounded the corner and stopped dead, her face draining of color.
Akari, stop. I've seen you everywhere, the train, the cafe, my own street. Tell me why.
She opened her mouth, but no sound came out. Her enormous eyes welled with tears, and her whole body trembled as if holding back an earthquake.
She isn't a crazed fan. This is something else. Fear, not obsession.
Before he could reach out, she bolted, shoes skidding on the polished floor, her hair whipping behind her like a banner of surrender.
She ran from me like I was the one to be feared. But I'm still invisible, aren't I?
The hallway felt colder. Soda stood there for a long moment, the weight of her unshed tears pressing on his chest.
No more assumptions. I'll find out the truth, even if I have to dig through every word I've ever written.
That night, he opened his old hard drive for the first time in years. The cursor blinked over a forgotten folder, writing forum backup.
If I open this, I might find answers, but also things I've buried for years.
But before he could click, his phone buzzed. Kenji's text read, "You okay? Looked wrecked? Roof tomorrow?" The next morning, Soda found Kenji already on the rooftop, leaning against the chain-link fence under a flat gray sky.
All right, Spill. You've been more ghost-like than usual, and that face after Akari ran. What happened?
She was terrified, Kenji. I've been ignoring it, but it doesn't add up. A school idol stalking a nobody. Why now?
Maybe she fell for the novel, and when she realized you wrote it, she flipped. Fame does weird things to people.
She walked past my confession like I was furniture 3 years ago. If she suddenly noticed me, it's not because of fame, it's something else.
Then dig into her past. Idols live on social media. There's gotta be an old post or comment linking her to you.
Soda nodded, pulling out his phone. He typed Akari's name into the search bar, thumb hesitating before pressing enter. The screen flooded with her public life, performances, interviews, fan pages. But somewhere in that digital ocean, Soda sensed a hidden current. The online search had been a dead end. But the real answers were buried on the hard drive he'd avoided for years. The forum loaded, a graveyard of his middle school stories, threads with 0 replies except one. A comment from AK filled half the screen. Your twist in Chapter 4 broke me. I reread it every night. Please never stop writing.
AK? Who used initials? And that tone obsessive, almost personal. This fan was here before anything.
He'd never imagined anyone actually read his work. But this user had commented on every single story long before Soda confessed to anyone. The dates lined up perfectly. AK had been there from the beginning, before the confession, before the invisible years, before Soda even knew Akari's name.
If AK is Akari, then she loved my stories years before she treated me like air. Why ignore the writer when he was right beside her?
He printed every comment. The stack of paper felt heavier than it should, like holding someone else's secret. He needed to confront her again, not with accusations, but with proof that she'd known him long before the school learned his name.
Tomorrow, I'm showing her this paper. No more running for either of us.
He found her on the rooftop, wind whipping her dark hair, as if she'd been waiting for the end of something.
I know about AK. Every comment, every night you spent reading my stories. You were my only fan before anyone else.
She stared at the printouts, her hand trembling over the words, and the idol's mask shattered into 1,000 unshed tears.
I didn't know it was you. The writer I worshipped was a voice in the dark. I feared the real boy would break the perfect image in my head.
So you ignored me for 3 years? Let me think I was nothing, when I was the very person you admired.
I was terrified the real you would disappoint me, and I'd lose the only stories that ever made me feel understood. I was selfish.
Soda saw her confession drain her, but he also saw her lips press together, swallowing something else she couldn't say.
And now? You follow me everywhere, but you still won't speak. What wall is so high that even this can't tear it down?
She shook her head, stepping back. The tears fell, but her silence only grew louder. The secret she guarded wasn't about the past.
She's still hiding something. I'll tear down whatever cage she's in, even if I have to break the whole world to do it.
That night, Soda's laptop glowed with a different search, Akari's idol agency. Not her fan pages, but the machine behind the smile. He found a buried idol forum thread. The title alone made his chest tighten. The Hoshizora Silence Contract. Why their idols never date. An anonymous post read, "Even a whisper of a boyfriend terminates the contract instantly. They own your personal life. Break the clause, and they bury your career."
So that's it. She's not just a fan afraid of illusion. She's a prisoner. Even looking at me could cost her everything.
He couldn't verify it alone. The next morning, he texted Mio, "Need your entertainment journalist contacts. It's about an idol. Urgent."
I've heard rumors. Hoshizora is iron-fisted. Signing with them means giving up your private life entirely. No exceptions. Even suspicion of a relationship can get a rookie terminated. They track everything. Phones, schedules. It's a golden cage.
So she can't even talk to me. Stalking was the only way to stay connected without triggering the clause. That's insane.
Mio saw the storm in his eyes. She'd seen Soda obsessed with plot twists before, but this was different. This was personal.
If I can't talk to her, I'll talk to the world. I'll write a story so loud they'll have to release her.
At a small concert hall, Soda stood in the shadows, watching Akari perform for a crowd that never saw her off stage. Her voice soared, but her eyes, just for a moment, scanning the dark, held a plea no fan would recognize. After the final song, he slipped backstage. Through a cracked door, he saw the agency manager, Mr. Tanaka, his clipboard held like a weapon.
Your smile was mechanical. Ratings drop. You drop. Remember, this agency owns you.
Akari stood frozen, head bowed, a single tear tracing the path of her earlier stage makeup.
That's not a manager. That's a jailer.
He waited until Tanaka left, then followed Akari out the stage door. The alley was cold, her breath misting in the night air.
Akari. The contract. The no dating clause. That's the real wall, isn't it? You can't be seen with me without losing everything.
If I even talk to you, they'll say I violated terms. They'll destroy my career, my family's income. I had to watch you from the shadows. Please, Soda, forget me. It's the only way.
Forget her? She's asking me to abandon the only reader who ever made my world real. I can't do that.
He walked home in silence, the cold biting deeper than the air. Inside, his laptop waited like an unloaded weapon. He sat and opened a blank document. The title appeared without thought, The Caged Idol.
No byline. I don't need credit. I need a reckoning. Every word will echo her silence.
He typed until sunrise, his fingers aching, fueled by a fury he'd never unleashed into words. The next afternoon, he met Mio at the cafe. He slid his laptop across the table, the draft open.
The Caged Idol? Soda, if this gets traced back to you, the agency will sue. You could lose your ghostwriting career, maybe worse.
I've been invisible my whole life. This silence, it has to mean something. She matters more than my career.
Mio stared at him, then nodded slowly. She'd seen that look before, just before he shielded her from the acid.
I'll push it through my anonymous blog network, but once it's out, there's no taking it back. Are you sure?
Back in his room, Soda stared at the upload button. One click, and the Caged Idol's story would belong to the world. He clicked. The upload bar filled, and somewhere deep in the network, the story of a caged idol began to breathe. Within 3 days, the Caged Idol devoured the internet. Anonymous blogs shared it, and the hashtag #FreeTheIdol trended worldwide. Entertainment news picked up the parallels. A pundit typed, "The fictional Hoshizora agency mirrors too closely to be coincidence." In the Hoshizora office, Mr. Tanaka's face drained of color as his phone buzzed nonstop. The board was panicking.
Find the anonymous author. Check every former trainee. If the media links this to us, we're finished.
That evening, Akari scrolled through her phone in the school hallway, and her fingers stopped. She'd know that sentence rhythm anywhere.
He wrote this. Soda just... He took on my cage with only words, but they'll destroy him if they find out.
She found him on the rooftop at dusk, the wind tearing at her uniform. Her voice broke before she even reached him.
Soda, the Caged Idol, you're the only one who could write her like that. Do you understand what they'll do if they trace it to you?
I wrote it for the only reader who ever mattered. Let them trace it. I've been invisible long enough.
The next morning, the agency's crisis room buzzed. Tanaka stood before the board. His tie loosened for the first time.
We sacrificed the girl. The public wants a scapegoat, and her contract is the noose. Terminate Akari effective immediately.
An hour later, Akari was called to the same sterile office. She entered with her head high, already sensing the final blow.
Your contract is terminated. No severance. No future with this agency. You're free, but remember the industry has a long memory.
Free. The word tastes like rain. I should be relieved, but I feel like a kite with a cut string.
She bowed once, a reflex more than respect, and walked out. The door clicked shut, severing the last 3 years of her life. Outside, the sky had opened. Rain hammered the pavement as Akari stepped through the agency's front doors for the last time. She didn't have an umbrella. She didn't need one. The cold water felt like the first real thing in years.
I'm no longer an idol. I'm no longer a prisoner. But who am I when no one is watching?
She walked on, not toward anywhere in particular, just away from the cage, one step at a time. Soda had been running too, toward her. He found her on a bench in the small park, rain plastering her hair to her pale cheeks. He sat beside her without a word, and together they listened to the downpour that had washed away her idle life.
You freed me. The story, it was a key I couldn't turn myself.
I didn't free you. I just gave you a door. You walked.
Every day I followed you. It was the only way I could be close without breaking the contract. Even a single hello might have ended me.
I understand now I was invisible to everyone, but you saw me just from the wrong side of the glass. I forgive you. All those years of silence, you were as trapped as I was.
The rain softened, and for the first time their eyes met without a wall between them.
I never stopped loving your words. Not a day went by without rereading them.
Then let's write the next chapter together. No cages, no contracts.
The next morning, sunlight broke through the lingering clouds of the storm. Sota waited at the school gate, hands in pockets. But this time he wasn't waiting alone.
You're early. I thought I'd be the one standing here nervously.
She smiled, still uncertain, but her fingers found his without hesitation, a quiet act of rebellion. Their fingers intertwined, the first public connection in 3 years of silence, visible to the world.
No more hiding? Ready to face them together?
As long as you don't let go of my hand, I can face anything.
They stepped through the gates. The corridor fell deathly silent. Students froze mid-conversation, phones raised like cameras at a crime scene capturing the unthinkable. Whispers began like static, questioning how the school idol could be with the ghostwriter, the boy she ignored for 3 years, now holding her hand.
Well, look who decided to stop being a ghost. About time, Soda?
Whispers erupted, but Sota held her hand tighter. For the first time, Akari walked through school as just a girl, not an idol, not a prisoner. And no one could build a cage high enough to hold her again. They entered the classroom together, and the seat beside Sota, always empty, now held Akari. The teacher paused, chalk midair, but continued without a word.
You sure about this seat? It's the invisible corner. No one talks to anyone here.
I spent 3 years watching from the shadows. Being seen next to you feels like breathing after drowning.
The chalk squeaked as the lesson resumed, but Soda's gaze kept drifting to the girl who once refused to look his way. She was really here. At lunch, they climbed to the rooftop. Kenji was already there, leaning against the fence with a smirk that said he'd been waiting for this.
This is a moment for the history books. The school idol and the ghostwriter sharing a bento on the roof.
I'm not an idol anymore. Just a girl who packed too much rice. And for the first time, I'm happy to share.
Then Sota laughed, a real, unguarded laugh that surprised even Kenji. It echoed off the chain-link fence like it belonged there. The afternoon sun felt warmer than it ever had, as if the world had finally decided to let them be. After school, he led her to the library, the same aisle where she'd once hidden behind the books.
I started a new novel. Not an expose this time. Just a story I wanted you to read first. The dedication is yours.
He slid his tablet across the table. She picked it up, her fingers trembling on the screen. The dedication on the title screen read, "For my first and only fan who saw me before I saw myself." She traced the words with her fingertip, and tears spilled. Not from sorrow, but from a fullness she'd never known. She turned the tablet off and threw her arms around him, burying her face in his shoulder.
I'll read every word, I promise. You have no idea how long I've waited for a story like this.
Later in her room, Akari sat by the window, the tablet glowing on her lap, a gentle smile on her face. As she turned pages, the years of silence unraveled. She was just a reader lost in a story. For the first time, the story was hers to read without hiding. And in those words, she found herself. The story had come full circle. The girl who once ignored his existence now lived in his every paragraph. The shadow in the corner became the light by his side. The stalker became his muse. And the idol found freedom not in stadium lights, but in the quiet between two people reading the same page. 3 years of silence, a contract written in invisible ink, a story that broke them both open. None of it mattered now. One afternoon, they climbed to the rooftop one last time before graduation. The sky burned orange and violet. They stood at the rail, their school ties loosened, the wind bearing the first breath of autumn.
From invisible to center stage. How did we end up here?
You wrote us into existence. I just finally had the courage to read the story that was always there.
The silence that followed was no longer a cage. It was a shared breath, a story still being written. And as the sun slipped below the horizon, it caught the edges of their silhouettes, two figures who had been invisible to the world, but never to each other. That evening, they walked home beneath the first stars of autumn, their shadows stretching long and finally inseparable.
No more contracts. No more silence. Just us and the road ahead.
And every story left to write. For the first time, the pages are blank, but I'm not afraid of them anymore.
They passed the cafe where she once hid behind a lamppost, its window dark now, no ghost lingering. Those places no longer held the ache of watching from corners. They were just streets now, ordinary and theirs. Somewhere in the city, the agency was crumbling under lawsuits. But that story had already been written.
Hey Akari, what should we name our next novel? I'm thinking something wild.
How about The Invisible Boy and the Caged Idol? It has a nice ring, and I know the characters pretty well.
They laughed, and the sound carried into the night, a quiet rebellion against every silence that had ever held them. And so they walked on, two souls once invisible, now the only story that mattered in each other's lives. In the quiet days that followed, they found a rhythm, writing, reading, sharing coffee at the same cafe booth they'd once used to plot against the world. The library aisle where she once hid became their favorite reading nook, books piled around them like a fortress.
Your new chapter, the protagonist is so clearly me. Did you have to make her cry so much?
Crying characters are the best kind. Besides, you always looked beautiful when you cried in the rain, or on a rooftop, or right here.
The school no longer felt like a cage to either of them. It was just a building of ordinary days' hallways that remembered their footsteps as simply theirs. On the rooftop, the chain-link fence still stood, but now it only held the sky, an endless blue they'd once thought belonged to other people. The invisible boy and the idol who stalked him had become the least invisible people in the world to each other. And in the final page of the novel he'd written for her, one line stood alone, waiting for the only reader who ever mattered. The final sentence read, "You were never invisible. You were the only story I ever needed to read." And so they closed the book, but their story had only just begun, written not in contracts or silence, but in the quiet space between two beating hearts.